I'd uh, I'd like to talk about endings and impermanence. We as musicians have to deal with endings and impermanence all the time, from releasing a key to ending a song. We have to develop a intimate understanding of when to end things, when impermanence feels natural. For me, a big part of writing music is to leave a legacy. With which something of my spirit might carry on in recorded media. So my ancestors can know who I am and what I stood for. And again, this is kind of another reason for doing these little chats. I think that I'm into runes. I'm into the Northern tradition stuff, the Viking stuff, and the Saxon stuff. I'm more Saxon than Viking. I use runes within my pieces of music, but I don't want to get too specific about that kind of thing. But one of the things I've come to realize is that the Northern tradition has a fairly unique way of approaching impermanence and approaching death. In a way, well, most people, when they think of a Viking dying, is they think of them transported into party heaven by a Valkyrie after dying in battle. I'd actually say that that is a fairly obviously politicized, Christianized interpretation of what the actual understanding of dying is in the Northern tradition. So the warriors would go to Valhalla, but everyone else who died normally would go to hell, which is not the Christian hell. It's an underworld, and it's not a place of punishment. And what we have of the Northern tradition talks about how various gods and characters from myths would consult the dead or the goddess of death and gain wisdom from her. And the reason they could gain wisdom from her or from the dead person or from the ancestor is because they live outside of time, but also outside of definition. A lot of that wisdom might be confusing or misleading. And I think there's a lesson in that, you know, we often colour things to how the way we want to see them. What starts out as wisdom often ends up as a hindrance because of our preconceptions. As musicians, there are huge similarities with this idea of death from the Northern tradition. We also seek to step outside preconceptions, step outside idea, and step outside of the idea of time and insert ourselves into the qualitative state of phenomenology. So in a way, every time we create a piece of music, we kind of bring our own impermanence into it. At least that's the way I understand it. This presents some interesting possibilities, such as the idea of learning from our ancestors, getting inspiration from our genetic inheritance, or, if you believe in such things, the spirits of a place. If one gets in the inspirational state and you contact that well of inspiration, that well where the dead may lie, that place where the elves reside under the mounds. Elves, by the way, are actually ancestors in Northern tradition. Then one can learn the sacred songs. Or one can relearn and resurrect the voices of those that have gone before us. I think thinking like this is actually quite a comfort for me, because I know that after I'm gone, there won't just be a legacy of recorded media, and there will. But there'll also be a qualitative legacy of my contribution to creativity and the creative process. So in a practical sense, I look at what I do, and one of the ways I free myself from self-doubt and put myself into an assertive state creatively is knowing that even after I pass, I'll still be in an inspirational sense, and I'll still be adding to the joy and the emotion and the conversation as one of your ancestors. So, in the true spirit of impermanence, it's probably a good time to end this talk.